Welcome back to the program. Now, it is President Uhuru Kenyatta's final national holiday celebration as the second term in office approaches the end. Madaraka Day is set for the newly renovated Uhuru Gardens, a legacy project for the outgoing president. But just how different will Uhuru's final Madaraka Day be? And it's actually in a couple of hours. Well, we still have here with us in studio Interior and Citizen Services PS Karanja Kibicho to carry on with that conversation. And PS, before we talk Madaraka Day, there's a topic that we hadn't fully exhausted a bit earlier on, and a couple of messages have come in. Of course, Kenyans concerned about the situation in Kerio Valley. Let me read two for you very quickly and get a response. One Kenyan here, I am Mutetezi, is asking, please ask the PS, what are some quick short-term solutions? What's the solution that the government is working on? Because it's good to have long-term solutions, but we need to know what's happening right now to reduce the killings. Let me start there, PS.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be back again. And just before we left this topic, I had said it would be very important to ask ourselves basic questions, like why is there calm in West Pokot? Why is there calm now in Laikipia? Why is there calm in Marsabit? You know, you can deploy as many police officers as possible. And we are doing that to ensure that there is a temporary solution to this eruptive situation. But that's not the answer. The answer is leadership. Because... Leadership
of the hotspot, so to speak.
Leadership of the elected leaders, the leaders who are there, whether by appointment or election. And for government to do this, because I assure you, the cardinal responsibility of any government is to ensure that life and property is protected. And for you to do that, you have a number of ways. You can use police, you can use the peace elders, you can use the administrators, or you can use the elected leaders. And for government to achieve this, over time, has devolved some of the functions to ensure that local leaders address the local problems that keep these young people who are involved in crime away from crime. And the basic question to ask yourself, and I will concentrate on the area that you are asking. You ask yourself a basic question. An MP, for example, gets 140 million shillings per year to do development projects that touch on education and security. Ask yourself, how many schools have been built by CDF money in Tiati, which is the source of the problem? And where does the money go? So that we also address ourselves to the leadership and compare that with the people who are using their money appropriately, so that they keep these young people away from crime and in school as a first step. How many...
Yes, that MP would then point a finger at you and say, security, however, still remains a national government function, whether development is happening or not.
Yes, if there wasn't any attempt to have that place sanitized, then the scale of insecurity that you would be finding is very large. I tell you, in Kerio Valley, as we speak, there are more than 200 police officers deployed there with proper equipment, but you cannot have a police to a citizen, one policeman. So you will find that as much as you are using police effort to calm a situation, you still need people to agree, because who are these? These are not foreigners attacking foreigners. These are Kenyans attacking Kenyans in the guise of stealing animals, in the guise of revenge, in the guise. And what has happened in other areas, is the leaders agree to speak. My minister has been to Kerio Valley more than 3 times. We have had meetings with these leaders, even in Nakuru, to just ask them, speak to each other, so that you can go and talk to your people and tell them to put the arms down and concentrate on the important things. Even as government puts the effort to sanitize the place through police, you still need the leaders to tell people, go talk to your young people. Here is a classroom. Let's go to class. Let's start farming. Let's convert ourselves, just like, and we have a classical example in this country of West Pokot, where that has happened, and you never hear of these problems.
PS, those from those constituencies and the counties that you've mentioned are watching this program today saying, in a sense, it doesn't matter to us whether it's the blame game that's happening, because we've seen local leaders pointing a finger at you and the government, and you are saying, wait a minute, local leaders, you also need to step in. They are saying, we are not safe tonight. Can they get an assurance from you?
Yes. I can tell you, you know, and I think you are misusing words. I am not here to blame anybody, but I'm here to inform that the government is doing everything, and that's why we have paid every attention, done the proper deployment, and just look. You know, in Baringo, for example, when we were just about to do national exams, there was an eruption like this. And everybody had predicted that the schools won't even take exams in that county. But 100% of the schools, through government effort, sat for their exams. And even in Keriovari, if the children want to go to school, the government is there to protect them. But protecting people through police is not the solution. The local leadership must engage the people so that they are part of the peace-building process. They cannot be away from the peace-building process and you expect long-term solutions. What we need is to look at, because these communities have lived with each other for thousands of years. And they know how they solve. For example, when there is a lack of pasture in one area and there is pasture in the other one, they know how they solve that problem. And what they need is to be encouraged to have that local arrangement of solving this. Because as long as the people who are entrusted with leadership in this area, because, you know, people think government is Harambee House. Government is not Harambee House. Government is a whole effort, including that arm of government that is elected. And these are our people. We must go and ask, why do they fight? And the simple reason that they front is animal, you know, wrestling. That's the simple effort. That is the simple excuse that's given. But I think it goes beyond cattle rustling.
There are viewers who say the same thing. Let me ask you this. I know we need to move on, but I still need to throw this question in, because one viewer is asking, so who is funding these bandits? How come they have access to guns even till today? Is it the political class? Who stands to gain from the unrest we're seeing?
Here I'll tell you this. Intelligence information is not evidence in a court of law. I can have all the intelligence information on you, but until I have evidence in you in action, I still not be able to prosecute. These guns don't find themselves in these areas from nowhere, and we must ask ourselves, who provides them? And your answer is as good as mine. That it is
Except
not...
You're the PS security.
Yes, I'm the PS security. And I'll tell you, until... You see, we started by demand for national police reservists. You know, you'll demand that let's have citizens being armed so that they can protect themselves.
And we're told they were withdrawn in 2018.
Because the government has the capacity to protect its people. Now, when you give guns to citizens to protect themselves, and you give guns to the other citizens to protect themselves, and they are not under attack from a foreign country, it is an internal. What is better? Is it to arm them, or is it to look for a long-term solution? And we think one is, and I've said this on this TV before, the most important thing as a long-term in this thing called cattle rustling about pasture is to ensure that instead of the cow moving to the pasture, you can create the pasture come to the cow. And I think there are people who have attempted that. We have seen even in Wajir, for example, where they would take advantage of when there are rains to store hay, so that when the rains are not there, they're able to give hay to the animals. We have seen in West Pokot the same thing happen. We haven't seen, and I will continue saying, because you cannot downgrade and downplay the importance of the local leadership investing in education, because that's why they're elected by their people, to ensure that they give them such information and such facilitation.
Okay.
Government is very busy building classes. We need these people to behave like the other parts of the country where they are participating in the issues of education, in the issues of security.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Okay. And just point of clarification, you said how many police have been deployed?
We have
200
over 200 police officers.
Are those enough? That's what one viewer is asking.
200 police officers in one small area are enough. And I think for us, we have even put a GSU camp in that place. But you will find there is no country that will have a policeman to a citizen.
Okay.
And I think what the latest is the reason, which of course we are investigating, is that there was an attack from the Kerio side to the Pokot side, who retaliated, and unfortunately, school children were killed. And I think we cannot justify such heinous acts, but we must ask ourselves, why does it continue happening? And why, you should, Wahiga at one time attend a meeting of these leaders. It's like they are not brothers and sisters.
Okay. And of course, you're the one who's here, so I'll keep throwing the questions your way, but we certainly hope the measures that you've talked about will work, will calm the situation there, because a lot of our viewers, and obviously those who live there, are very worried about the situation at this particular time. Now, switching gears, in a couple of hours, PS, Madaraka Day will be here, and it's President Uhuru Kenyatta's last. How different is it going to be this time round?
I know you are keen about Madaraka Day, but I want to bring closure to a topic we had before, if you don't mind, about, I know you'll visit it when we are discussing the election preparedness, but I also want to say that unless you promise that we'll go back to that topic.
I think let's talk about Madaraka Day, then we will still revisit that topic.
Fair enough. I think this Madaraka Day is special, being the last Madaraka Day for His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. And if you remember very well, for the last 5 or so years, we have devolved the celebrations of these national days from Nairobi to the counties. And as a result, we have been able to create infrastructure around the country. We've gone to Mombasa, we've been to Machakos, we've been to Meru, we've been to very many places, probably over 10 places, where within a very short time, we are able to put up a stadium, we are able to put up the infrastructure that is sufficient to support a national celebration. And because a lot of people may not pay attention to why do we celebrate these national days. We have 1st of June, which is Madaraka, we have 20th of October, which is Mashujaa, and we have 12th of December, which is Jamhuri. And these days are associated with the struggle for independence, all of them. And that's why they are national days, which give us an opportunity to remember our history, to remember the struggle for self-rule in this country, to remember the struggle for independence in this country. And
I think the curiosity now would be, so tomorrow's day, what does tomorrow look like?
Tomorrow, we will have, obviously you are aware that we have a visiting president who will have an opportunity to be our guest of honor for the day. Tomorrow will be a bit different because it will be a little heavy on military display, because this is the opportunity that you take to showcase even your might as a country, because you must reassure your citizens that you are ready to protect them against any aggression from outside. And that's why you see in any of these celebrations, there's a lot of showcasing of military wear, military passing through there, paying their respect to their commander-in-chief. And this will happen even tomorrow.
Any special maybe festivities?
Because it's the last one, there will be a lot of showcasing of the hardware of the military, something that doesn't happen because they need to say goodbye to their commander-in-chief, because it's probably will be the last day that he will be conducting a national day. But we will also have the usual things that we do, cultural display during entertainment, and a lot of happiness. We are going to have this in our brand new grounds at Uhuru Gardens. You are aware today they're officially open, but we have very good grounds that will obviously be useful even in the future to host such days. Just
out of curiosity, what would the cost of a feat like tomorrow look like?
Like tomorrow's is cheap because we are not doing any. I'll give you the figure. That's why,
that was going to be my question.
That's what you are interested in, because we are not doing any infrastructure development. That was done as part of the Uhuru Gardens renovations. But in other celebrations, we have to put up a brand new stadium and a lot of it. So here it's more of paying allowances to the people who are coming to sing. Paying for a bit of sprucing. Roughly, you will be between 60-70 million.
60 to 70 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
With the cost that you put at here today. Let's switch gears now. And of course, just to let Kenyans know, you can follow all that will be happening tomorrow live on Citizen TV and Inoro and Ramogi as well, and on our digital platforms. And you've gotten a hint there from PS about what one can expect tomorrow. But PS, of course, as Kenyans, wait for tomorrow, August 9th. Looms.
You haven't given me a chance to invite them.
To say. Okay. I was going to give you one at the end, but you may say so that
now. Tomorrow we expect to have about 30,000 Kenyans. That field is big enough to host a lot of them. Our grounds, the gates open at around 5 a.m. There are no special cards for anyone. Everyone is invited, and they just walk in. They just be done a small security check to ensure that we are safe, to ensure that we are orderly. After that...
and they carry their masks?
They carry their masks, of course. You have seen the numbers are going up. We will expect our guest of honor will arrive at around 10. It will be a 2-hour event, so by 1 we should be out of there. And we have put everything in place to make sure that we'll have a colorful and memorable Madaraka Day, being the last one in this administration. We have done our best to ensure that we make our Commander-in-Chief proud in this last one.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. And if you're out of town, you can't make it, I'll remind you, you can always follow the action here. PS, and it's not every day we have someone of your caliber here in studio. We have to talk a bit about the election. August 9th looming. I know you'll talk a little bit about that report today and the concerns about probability of some sort of violence. But with 69 days to go, there have been concerns about the participation of civil servants in campaigns, PS. You've been among those who've been directly accused of campaigning. It's not a secret. We've seen you on the campaign trail as well. For those who ask why you are violating the code of ethics that governs civil servants, how do you respond to that?
There is a very big difference between campaigning and getting involved in civic education of our people. And there is some right we will not accept that it's removed from us, because we are duty bound to go and give civic education to our people. And if you have been very keen, you will see that when we go somewhere as civil servants, we tell people the important things to check. When people come asking for votes from them, you will tell them, check about integrity of these people, check about their development consciousness, check about who they are. Do they have family values? You have a list of things that you tell people to check. And I think there are people who actually draw a line that you're not supposed to speak about these things. Civil servants are Kenyans and we live here. What we don't do is probably go and start saying, vote for me because I'm not a candidate. And you see, here, because I've seen we are human beings as well, that we have a certain group of politicians in this country who, when they get into the microphone, instead of using it, talking about what they'll do for people, what they will do to develop this country, all they do is talk about Kibicho, talk about Matiang'i, talk about... And if
but PS, with all due respect, when we see you at a church function with church leaders and one of the presidential aspirants / candidates, what is the other side to make of it?
I have actually said on this TV, maybe you missed that show, that we are called upon to give civic education to all Kenyans, regardless of their political divide. And I know you are talking about the invitations we get probably from the Azimio group. And I challenge today, looking you in the face, let the UDA group invite us tomorrow and we'll go and give.
You will attend?
I will attend tomorrow morning. Tell them to call you and tell me the very...
So it's just that you've not received any invitation from Kenya Kwanza?
You don't go to a place you have not been invited, because all you have heard from them are them hurling insults to us instead of using their time wisely to ask for votes from people. Because even if you took a whole day insulting Kibicho will not be in the ballot paper. You better spend time talking about the people who will be in ballot. But I give the challenge today. Tomorrow morning, Kenya Kwanza invites me at a venue.
They are watching.
They are watching. I am challenging to go and talk about ethics, to talk about integrity, and to talk about how Kenyans shall will be required.
You will attend.
I will attend.
So let me ask you this, because political persuasions change. Today, one politician is supporting this side, tomorrow the other. But the law remains not stagnant necessarily, but the thing that unites us all. It's what keeps Kenya, safe and free from chaos.
True.
What do you make of the Election Offences Act that bars civil servants from, in Section 14, use of public resources for purposes of campaigning or participation in election by public officers generally?
The law is very clear that if you are a civil servant, there are things you are not supposed to do. And the law is also clear that as civil servants, we have a responsibility of giving civic education to our people. Now, how people interpret civic education to be politics is what I cannot understand. But it's very clear that if you are involved in politics and other than, of course, people who choose to misread, the cabinet secretaries are allowed by the law. Read it. But
you're talking about the Leadership and Integrity Act.
The law allows
12.
The law allows them to participate because they are products of a political process. That's a fact, and they are not breaking any law. And
why do you think that law put that? Why do you think that provision was put to allow cabinet secretaries to come? Why do you think that was? Because
there is a very good interaction between policy and implementation. You see, what happens when laws are made in this country? Yeah, a policy is thought about, and that policy must be interpreted into law, must be converted into law, so that it is lifelong. And the policy makers are these cabinet secretaries. The principal secretaries and all the others are doers. These are the technical people. But the policy makers are the cabinet secretary. Then it will be unfair that you do not want them to interact with the people who then translate this policy into a law. And I think people deliberately want to say that once you bring policy, don't follow it up. That's all they are saying. But one would then ask, it does make sense, for example, in 2017, to see President Uhuru Kenyatta with CS Joe Musheru, CS Matiang'i, because then he was campaigning for a second term. Those are the men and women he's working with, and maybe he needs them to come and explain certain policy positions, etc., decisions made to the people as part of campaigns. But when you have the incumbent president not eligible to vie again, some would ask, of what benefit is it to have CSs on the campaign trail? In fact, since I came here, it's the first time you've got it wrong. The president in 2017 was a candidate, just like there are candidates now who would, let the people, and I am challenging you because this is something that we discuss all the time, let the people who are players in the political arena invite any of us to go and explain the policies of government. That will be done. 100%, whoever is a candidate, even the candidates who are rated at 1%, if they call us to go and explain what is this policy about, we are duty bound.
But what correlation would it have? Because it doesn't make sense for you to go and explain policies to a candidate who you've never worked with. You are not employed by them.
Policies are not made for candidates, and policies are not made for the presidents. Policies are made for the people of this country. And whether there is an election or not, the people of this country deserve to be explained what these policies mean to them. And the people who can explain best are the initiators of those policies. And that is why I am challenging. People speak without testing. Let, for example, you mentioned Kenya Kwanza. Invite CS Mucheru tomorrow to explain a policy on ICT. He will gladly go. Let them tomorrow invite me or my CS to go and explain about election preparedness. We will go because we are duty bound to explain to them.
When a few of your colleagues have expressly said that a certain candidate will win in the first round, how difficult do you think it will be for any of the other, we don't know how many will be cleared, to feel comfortable to invite a man or men or women who've expressly stated that this is where our interests are?
Here, we don't speak from emotions ourselves. We speak from facts. If you asked me, for example, what the data is saying today, and because you're entitled to my answer as a public servant, I will give you as it is. And the burden of proof then shifts to you. If the data I've given you think is misleading, then tell me what data you have and from where that says otherwise. And I think you cannot criminalize someone for giving you information you have asked for. If, for example, you ask me today, what is the polling with respect to the institution I work for? Yeah, I will tell you. And if it favors, because you have asked me, I didn't volunteer it. If it favors a person, it doesn't mean that that's the person I necessarily support, but it's what the data is saying. And when it's saying like that, then it's up to Kenyans. I've explained to them as a policy initiator what they should look for, what the question they should ask, and why they must be careful, because we must relate our political decisions to our future as a country.
Well, what is the data saying?
You are told here by CS Mucheru. That's what it's saying.
This is what, intelligence data?
This is intelligence data. That's what it's saying.
It's a 60% win in the first round.
That's what it is saying. First round.
With 2 months to go to the election, voters will change their mind.
There is a difference between noise making and facts. There are people who will make noise, do all sort of photoshopping. I saw, let me tell you, I saw a photo about my town, Kagio, that has one road that cannot pass 3 vehicles, that had a crowd of 2 kilometers wide. But in Kagio, a road passes only 2 vehicles. So that is perception creation, which is very far from facts. As we don't deal with those perceptions, we deal with facts. What are the facts on the ground saying? And they are saying very different things from the noise.
Older democracies than us, the United States, the United Kingdom, expressly bar and ban civil servants from engaging in any political activity or even speaking in regards to political activities at a particular time. Do you see the logic?
Let me ask you.
When you look at it long term, do you see the logic in that?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. And because we must be factual. Has Waihiga and Kibicho been involved in politics in this show? Just answer.
We have not shown...
But we have...
At least I haven't as a journalist.
Yes, but we have talked about politics. We have talked about politics. What you are saying is that we should be zipped. Never even pronounce the word politics in your life. What we cannot do... You see, politics is what determines whether a country stands or not. And you cannot isolate a segment of Kenyans not to be interested in their country. Because, look, what makes, and you said it here, what makes a country get united and have one vision is because of the laws they have made for themselves. Where are these laws made? These laws are made in Parliament. And you are telling people not to be interested in who goes to make laws that affect them. I mean, it will be ridiculous.
I think it's a question of telling the referee and the linesman that for the match that is going on,
yes,
is it possible, or what impact would it have if you also start cheering on one of the teams, which is what some would say this looks like?
You see, someone has to have a very clear distinction about what stage are we in. The stage we are in, remember, civil servants have voters' cards in their pockets.
Yes.
Let me take you slowly.
Yes.
They have voters' cards in their pocket. And that voters' card will only vote for one person. And because it will vote for one person, other than pronouncement, I have, of course, an opinion. Because I will not vote for 10 people. I will vote for one person. And because I will vote for one person, you cannot say that I am in the heart neutral, because I will vote for one person and there are probably 10 candidates. Why will I vote for candidate A and not B? It's because I have an opinion about the other candidates. Then secondly, Bwana Wahiga, about who I'll vote for, because there's a secret ballot.
That is
a secret ballot. I choose what do I keep secret in my life and what do I keep open. It's my choice. You cannot tell me, keep the following things secret to yourself. It's my choice. Do I want to release the information about my date of birth or not? If I choose to tell you when I was born, you cannot criminalize me for telling you. If I, for example, you ask me, who will I vote for? And I decide to forego that secret as a person, you cannot then criminalize me for answering you. If you ask me today who I'll vote for, I'll answer you because I don't think it's a secret I need to keep.
So you see no challenge with having state officers expressing publicly their support of one side in terms of how that could disenfranchise others on the other?
I'm saying,
yes.
I don't wake up every morning to go, you will not see my car branded about a person. I'm just saying, if today, Wahiga, and dare me, you ask me, who will you vote for? It is my choice. Do I want to keep that as a secret or do I want to keep it public? Because you choose what secrets to keep. Me, I have chosen to keep my preference not a secret. And nobody can say, because I have chosen not to keep my preference a secret, I'm violating. What you should ask is, what do I say by my mouth? When I go to a place where there are people, you have never seen a civil servant call a public rally, have you? You have seen them go to a church where they're invited to talk to those people. You will go, you will find we are called to go to a place where borders are collected. So, because I want to know specific things, what is your, just like you called me for this interview, if you are a group of people, most likely, by the end of the interview, you'll ask me, so after you have told us about integrity, after you have told about forward-looking, manifesto, and all that, so who do you think you will vote for? I say, who you will vote for is your choice. But as for me, Kibicho, I will vote for the following, if you asked me.
PS, we'll come back to that. But just before, so what's the number saying about the other political formations? You said 60% is...
I mean, you can remove 100, remove 60. Then they share 40.
How is it being... What's it?
You know, there's a two-horse race. Yeah, you know that.
I've seen others being cleared. I don't know what might happen to them between
so
now
you will
and
find
9th.
the others probably get 2%. Then the two-horse race remain. You know, the perception from reality as we deal with reality. Because unlike you, I am in touch with every village in this country through our national government administration network. And we feel the temperature of this country, political temperature. Even when we are doing the thermal mapping that NCAC was talking about, we do it accurately. We know where is tension highest, where do we need to deploy, where do we need to be careful. And I think what we are seeing is a situation where people start playing victims, creating a perception of, you have heard all these things about rigging, all
that was actually
all
the
that,
next question.
because what these people are trying to do is to set stage. And we have seen this. This is not the first time we are seeing it. This is not the first election that we are seeing. Fortunately, I am going to see my second one as PS Interior. So we know when the stage is being set. And you start setting the stage by giving inaccurate information, perception, creating perception.
Yes, let me allow you to actually set the record straight this evening. Candidly, is there any plan that you could be aware of to interfere with the August presidential election?
None whatsoever. And I will tell you, looking you in the face, there is none whatsoever, and there can't be, because this is a government. President Uhuru Kenyatta, you have seen him. He is a president who believes in the rule of law and democracy. Everyone knows that, unless they are pretending. And there is not a person who can sit in a room and tell you, manipulate the will of the people. The will of the people shall prevail on 9th August 2022.
And yet a man who is second in command, the deputy president, still in government, whichever way you look at it, still makes that assertion. Is there something that he knows that you would like to respond to?
Let me tell you. And, you know, it's not a yes and no answer. We have a person who is in government who has lost touch with it. And I'll tell you an example. For example, I saw yesterday people being promised that when I become president, I will revive Kenya Meat Commission. Kenya Meat Commission, my friend, was revived a long time ago. It is working. You know, I've seen, when I become president, I will reduce the price of fertilizer from 5,000 to 3,000. Government reduced that a long time ago to 2,600, meaning that we have a person who has completely lost touch with what is happening in the government he works for. And I'm saying that looking you straight in the eyes, because we must remove lies from reality. Now,
well, he's not here to defend himself.
I'm saying that
yes.
You ask me a question,
yes,
and I'm building to the answer. Or don't you want me to build to the answer?
What I was hoping to hear is there possible he has insider information that he and you, who are government,
yeah,
why where we sit, from where the Constitution is, might know about
I was giving you that background information is to show you a person out of touch with what is happening in government and cannot therefore sit anywhere and pretend to say what government is planning. What I can assure you, yeah, there is zero plans for this government to interfere with the elections of 9th August 2020. The will of the people on 9th August shall prevail. What are we as a ministry concerned with? Because we do not conduct elections in this country. Elections in this country are conducted by IEBC.
What are your concerns?
Our concern is about what backup does IEBC want so that the elections are conducted in a safe, so that they are in a safe environment, so that they are credible and believable by Kenyans. And what IEBC does is it requests us for backup, for example, of security. Because IEBC does not have a police service. So they will ask us that in this center, give us 5 policemen because we think it's a place that we are not comfortable. Then we give them 5. Then they will tell us, we want to transport these materials from point A to point B, give us security so that they arrive there unadulterated. So we will provide that. And any other assistance that they will require. But in as far as the election process is concerned, we have zero input. But the rest
so there is no way you could make a request to IEBC, for example, to access. There's no way you can access IEBC data?
We cannot access IEBC data because it's IEBC data. IEBC data belongs to IEBC. But there are some things, there is the infrastructure that IEBC must ask for. I've just given you the security, for example. Now, we know that IEBC requires to transmit data electronically. True? IEBC does not have the infrastructure. So it will ask probably the Communication Authority for assistance to do that. It will ask Safaricom for assistance to do that. So there are those things that IEBC has the capacity to do, IEBC has the capacity to go and print papers. IEBC has the capacity to do posting of its own staff to who are involved directly in election processes and the things that they are able to do. What they are not able to do, they ask other institutions of government to assist. And that is why there is a multi-agency forum where these discussions take place, so that everyone who is supposed to play a role in this electoral process is given their work in a manner that is coordinated.
Is this the same multi-agency forum that IEBC seemingly walked away from?
The one that IEBC walked away from is the one that is chaired by Chief Justice, which is the multi-agency forum for election. And what that multi-agency forum does is it asks, what is this election? Walk the journey of election. Security, we require the actual voting, and we require the justice system after the election, because certainly there will be petition, whether there is an MCA petitioning or there is an MP or even there is a presidential petition. So sit in one room and see how are we prepared as a country to deal with this, so that everybody believes that the elections are credible and are fair. Now, we in the security sector, unlike what most people know, we started these preparations probably 1.5 years ago to even try to posture very many scenarios. If, for example, there was an election in this country and the whole country erupted, what shall we do? So we prepare properly so that election does not become the reason why this country is torn apart. And we have had our people prepare, they have done rehearsals, and we are ready. What I can assure you, looking in the eye, is that we are ready, and this election shall be peaceful.
Government critics not only raise concerns about possible rigging, and some of them refer to the last election, which was actually annulled by the courts. Don't you see the concerns of some that keep bringing up that persistent allegation of rigging, that if the past is anything to go by, they are not sure about the sanctity and full setup and credibility, so to speak, of the election that is being prepared for in the next 69 days, PS?
The powers I don't have is to control what people think. But what I have knowledge about is who conducts elections. I can't speak for IEBC, and I know that they are themselves intent of making the election in this country free, fair, and credible. Because there are many players in this, the sole responsibility of IEBC is to conduct elections in this country, and that is not shared by anybody. But IEBC requires support of other institutions to be able to carry out its mandate. And such institutions will include the ICT infrastructure. But at the end of the day, is it the executive that deals with the data? It is IEBC that deals with the data. Executive has nothing to do with it. It's only that because there is something called executive, people think it has bad intentions. But the overall intention of the executive is to ensure that the elections that come on 9th will leave this country intact, will make us not go into war, will make us lose no life, will make us lose no property.
PS, in the next few months, next 4 months or so, there'll be a handover from this administration to the next.
Yes.
Who will coordinate that handover?
Yeah, I start by reminding a lot of, I also read social media a lot. And there are, especially from some quarters, some people who like reminding me that I have 2 months to go. Which is, so true that I don't know why they keep repeating. Because even you are here, where you are here, you citizen, you will leave. You will not.
Nobody lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever.
These people don't seem to remember even where they are themselves. They will leave. As we are coming to the end of this administration, and by law, there is a creation of what is called Assumption of Office Committee that's created. And it will start being operational as soon as the campaign period starts, so that it starts preparing for handing over
And by law, it should be led by a secretary to the cabinet.
To the cabinet. And there is an acting secretary to the cabinet in the name of head of public service, who will be the chair of that committee, and there will be members to that committee.
Why was it not possible to have a substantive?
You know, this question has been asked, but the overall, you know, when people overstep their mandate, you know, when a president is given mandate by the people through an electoral process, he decides how to form his government. And that is not shared. And I think it's good to discuss things that are shared. Now, the president has formed a government, has formed institution, has given functions in the best way that he thinks he will deliver his promises to the people of Kenya. And he has done it. And we have seen this country stand for the last 10 years. So what will happen is there will be that assumption of office committee, which has membership as described in law, that will start its work. And immediately the elections are over, if there are no petitions or even after the petitions, that committee is the one responsible of doing all the logistical, the infrastructure of the swearing in of the incoming head of state.
And you don't see any legal challenges, someone moving to court stating that without a secretary to the cabinet, that swearing
there
in
is a secretary to the cabinet.
Acting.
And there is no description in law. Just stand the law and show me, to tell me that a person appointed in an acting capacity has no powers to act. You know, all these are things that people keep talking about without looking. There is a secretary to the cabinet, and that is why whenever there is a cabinet meeting, there are minutes. And there is even a person who even calls it, because there is a secretary to the cabinet. Only that he is doubling as the head of public service, who will actually be the one who will convene the assumption of office committee. And when that's convened, it goes in a very articulate manner, including what the person will be coming in will say. Because this is a transition, and I think it's not the first one. We are lucky to have witnessed them in our lifetime, many. This is not the first one. And
two rights don't make a wrong. So,
where was a wrong?
Don't make a right, rather.
Where was a wrong initially? Just tell me the wrong. Is there
the assumption of the Office of the President Act clearly stipulates the role of the Secretary to the Cabinet, their duties as well. And even if it did not happen in 2017, it doesn't make it right.
I just want to ask you,
yes,
does it mean if you are appointed as the acting managing director of Citizen, Royal Media Services.
You're giving me a job.
I wish you were.
that is not vacant.
I wish you were.
Yes.
If you are given that job as acting managing director, that Royal Media Services has no managing director, is only that managing director is in an acting capacity, but he is a managing director. This country has a secretary to the cabinet. Only that the people who talking about it want it in their style. But the commander-in-chief, who has been given mandate by the Kenyan people, has chosen to have it that way. And there is no vacancy. You know, if there was a vacancy that he wants to fill, he would fill it. But what is important is, do you want to tell me that we will go, there is an election, there is a winner, and there is an assumption of office committee that arranges a handing over ceremony, because that is the function. And then you say, because the one who is arranging is in an acting capacity, then there is no president in this country. Do you see a situation like that?
Yes, maybe the question I'd ask is, how difficult is it to simply send
you're asking the
Parliament? Okay, but you're the closest that I can get to His Excellency the President.
The mandate to form
to avoid
government.
Those legal loopholes.
No, I'm saying the mandate to form government and to give functions to institutions belongs to the president who is elected by the people, because he is exercising the sovereign power of the people, and he has chosen a style. So we cannot sit here and start telling, listen, let me give you a very good example. He could decide that the function of security is in Ministry of Health. He could decide that because he has a promise with the Kenyan people that I want in my 5-year contract to deliver the following to you. The results are the following. For me to deliver the results to you, don't prescribe to me the everyday activity that you will be checking whether it's quarterly, are we still on course? So he has promised to deliver certain things to the people of Kenya. We cannot then tie his hands. By the way, he is creating functions in his government, and that is why he will create ministries. They are not named in the constitution. You are just given a number.
The constitution does not pose a challenge.
Yes.
That is fine. But the assumption of the Office of the President Act does give guidelines on how that should happen. I think that's the challenge that those who criticize are putting through.
Because they assume there isn't a person in office. There is a person in office.
Okay. Yeah. PS, because you've said some people on social media have been giving you timelines, I guess the logical question then would be, what would PS Karanja Kibicho be doing in December 2022? What
at the moment...
what does the future look like for you if you were to...
Bwana Ihiga,
yes.
Is to concentrate on ensuring that we have a peaceful election that is devoid of any violence. Number two, I have not elected to tell you how old I am, but I'm sufficiently old. I will be doing my 13th year as a PS in government. 13 years probably, you haven't worked that long yourself in government, in the Royal Media Service, but I've worked 13 years. And there is time for everything. What is important at the moment is to ensure that there is a peaceful election, that the mandate that we have been given up to 9th August is fulfilled properly. And when another government is formed, there shall be a PS Interior whom I will hand over to.
What will your hand? That's an interesting point you've raised. What will your handover notes look like? What's that one thing you would tell your successor?
We are very busy today. We've even, in our ministry, we've formed a committee of preparing the handing over report that is going across the country. You know, we are the only ministry that has a representation in every village in this country. And we want to tell the incoming person about every village in this so that they don't start from zero, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel when we are able to give you a head start. So when we give you a head start, these are the gray areas, these are the projects, these are the programs that we are dealing with, these are the things that you need to do, these are the functions that you need to carry out. We'll tell you. But once you take office, because you have results to deliver, you will then decide, is the report useful or not? But as far as we are concerned, we will touch on projects, we will touch on programs, we will touch on finances, we will touch on HR, and we will touch on what we think are proposals, recommendations for work that should give us the out. Because remember, on 9th August, it's not a coup in this country. There is not there isn't a discontinuity of government. It's only people who will change, but government shall remain. Because it's not a coup. It's just an election that will come. Faces will change, but the government will be there. And that is why there is a civil service. So that even as political leaders change, the civil service remains. And that is what perpetuates the government forever. Because government hasn't changed. It's only faces that have changed. Kibicho's face will change to another, but they will still have the mandate of ensuring that lives and property are protected. They'll have the exact mandate I have. If you are put there, the things I'm being told, you will be told, because that goes with the work. It's not about Kibicho. I can tell you, in October this year, you will never see my name on social media, because it's not me, it's the office. And there will be another occupant of that office who will be getting the insults I get.
PS, there's one viewer asking, ask PS about deep state.
Yeah. You know, one time I was walking in town and someone pointed at some manhole, just pointed, and everybody crowded there because there's some mysterious something inside that manhole. just for the people to realize there's a madman who just pointed at a manhole and he has occupied our whole afternoon trying to check, did he see a snake? This is the exact description of deep state. That people out there just point at something that they think is so deep that it cannot be understood. What is deep state? Zero.
Deep states are discussed around the world, faceless or maybe known men and women who have the ability to influence government transitions.
Of course, our description of deep state here, let's not talk about all over the world. Let's talk about the definition of deep state in
Kenya.
In Kenyan jargon. It's that bad thing that is evil, scheming bad about government, is always scheming about things. You know, there is nowhere I have sat where there are people seated scheming about harming this country. And that's the deep state that is being talked about. Some group of people, you have heard me being told that I carry money in bags, sharing it to people. You know, that's what, you know, I just say I wish it was there in bags. I won't even share it. So, because people are still stuck in very old times where there was no accountability, when people used to operate in vague manners. Now we have a very transparent society. There is nothing you will do where there isn't a guy who will not question. Nothing in this country. There is nothing that you will spend as that thing called deep state that has not been passed by parliament. How can you touch money that is not appropriated by parliament? When is parliament appropriating money for deep state to operate? Where? When? And what is that vote ahead called? So that we also know it. So these are some of the things.
Some would bring up supplementary budgets. The money is used
supplementary
and then brought to parliament later on for approval.
Lies. Supplementary budget is, there is no money spent in supplementary. You cannot, I educate you today, spend 1 cent of government money that is not appropriated by parliament. Zero. In fact, when budget is passed, there is even a warrant that the head of state is supposed to sign after parliament has agreed that this public money, spend it in the following manner through budget. What happens is, because sometimes there are emergencies, the cabinet secretary for national treasury is allowed under what is called Article 223, if there is an emergency, to allow an expenditure. But after it's allowed, it must be taken to parliament and approved by parliament. And he must satisfy parliament that that expenditure was, and for example, if there are floods today and there are people drowning and you need to save them, or remember a time like when there was some problems in South Sudan and we have to evacuate people. There is nobody who had budgeted money to evacuate people, so you will need it. And it's passed because it's an emergency. So the minister will have to go and explain to parliament that I agreed to this Article 223 because the nature of this expenditure was an emergency. Nowhere else, and I want to challenge anybody who talks to open the books and say, this is the vote ahead of deep state. So
you are saying, Pierce, on record today, there are no confidential accounts?
There are confidential accounts, which is voted by parliament, and its expenditure is available to the Auditor General to come and scrutinize. But it is not a secret. It is passed in parliament as confidential amount. I'll tell you.
So when you hear, for example, the Auditor General querying the use of money that was in the fuel levy for other purposes, isn't that what would concern some people?
It's called an audit query. And what you cannot do, you know, people mistake misallocation. For example, if it was, you see, money that in government, when you go to budget lines of government, monies are called certain names. So if it's money allocated to buy office furniture, then you buy tires for the vehicles. You have misallocated that money, but it's not stolen because it has gone to buy tires. All you need to do is to explain what cost you, because there is a process of government called reallocation. If, for example, I want to use the money for fuel to buy tea, I will write to National Treasury, tell them I have money here that I'm unlikely to spend, and there is an urgent use here that requires money. Can you allow me to reallocate this money to go to this vote ahead? Until I do that, if Miss cannot even allow me to spend, so you have to apply to the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, for that reallocation, which is allowed. So it's taken to the other budget item, then you can spend it. Now, I would want, because we are still at the confidential, to see where is this reallocation that is done beyond what has been appropriated by Parliament. It's not there. It's just perceptions being created by idlers to ensure that they look relevant. But it's not there, because if it was there, they should shoot it in Parliament. They are the parliamentarians. Stop it at Parliament, and nobody can spend that money. But it's not there. Can I tell you how much it is? And I challenge you to check. Because government...
How much what is?
Government, the confidential that
accounts
is talked about for Ministry of Interior, just check. The entire probably is less than 100 billion, including police, CID, it's less.
So there's about 100 million in confidential
accounts. No.
I can't check.
I'm talking of, we have very many people who will need it. We have in Ministry of Interior. So, for example, in the PS's confidential, you might find it's 20 million a whole year. Is that the 20 million that is rumored to be carried in bags? You know, people have idle talk to just incite Kenyans, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
PS, I have many questions, but my time is running up. Let me read one or two from viewers, and then we'll wrap this up. Somebody here is asking, when PS Kibicho and his ministry convened that technical working group on election chaired by Chief Justice Kome, what was the intention? The
intention was, you look at what is the electoral process. I think I had attempted to answer that. The electoral process starts by the action of IEBC. But IEBC, for example, can have the ability to buy ballots. But IEBC has no ability to protect them. They will require police. Yeah? After the action, IEBC has no ability to adjudicate a petition of dissatisfied people, whether it's an MCA or not. So what happened is you look at the electoral process from the beginning to the end and ask yourself, who are the players? So there will be people who will be in terms of security, there are people who will transmit data, there are people who will be responsible for the actual voting, there are people who are responsible for the justice system. Bring them into one room and discuss what are your needs, IEBC, because the center of focus is IEBC. They will say, we will need 50,000 policemen for that day. Then they have told the Ministry of Interior, National Police Service, go and ensure that from the security institutions, you provide 50,000. They will tell Ministry of ICT that for us to transmit data, we will need 4G in the following places. So it will become, because they will not go and install masts and install 4G installations. It is the ministry that will do that. When there is a petition, they will say, we will want a petition to be done in 2 weeks because we want to be done with this process within this time frame as given in law. So people sit together and plan. Now, how that is interpreted to be interfering, because IEBC doesn't have policemen, IEBC doesn't have transmission networks, IEBC does not have probably sufficient vehicles to even, you know, there are places in this country where ballots are even flown by choppers. IEBC requires support to do those things, but we only support what IEBC has asked for. We don't go and tell them, you need this support. No, we wait for them to say, we need 50,000 policemen. The other policemen who are outside the polling center, because the ones that we sacrifice to them answer to IEBC. But outside the polling center, there are activities. People could start rioting. So we will also deploy based on our intelligence information. And that's why the deployment is very, very important. That's why even the hotspotting that NCIC was doing is very, very important, because it will tell us how to deploy. This place, there is likely in the evening when votes are being counted to erupt chaos. So you deploy policemen.
And yet in all of this, you never saw where there could be a possible conflict in the future, where the chair of that multi-agency forum, CJ Kome, could in the future potentially have to preside over a Supreme Court decision in a presidential petition.
But there is nobody in that room who is a candidate. Everybody there is a facilitator of IEBC. The candidates are out there. You see, any committee you form must have a chair. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And the chair this time is because look at what happens away from elections, yeah, in the administrative of justice, even in your county. You will go and find there are the players in that system who sit together, and they will be the magistrate probably in your court at the county, the police officers, everybody who is involved in the judicial system, so that they sit together and ask themselves, how do we best administer justice to our community? Okay. It's cut and paste.
I think some of the things we're talking about is a perception, whether it's about civil servants campaigning or, a chief justice who is seemingly involved in the election process from the beginning, while many feel the judiciary should wait, for the petitions, and that's when the visibility should be seen. And I think my question is from a perception perspective, PS, you don't see any challenge, because I think sometimes it's more important than the reality.
True. If there was actually a chief justice in a country, there is an election that's coming. Fact is, whether there will be a presidential petition or not, there will be petitions in this country about somebody, an MCA, an MP, a governor. There will be petitions. It will be a reckless chief justice who sits and says, let me wait for God. If there is a petition, we will plan then. They need to plan. They need to assume a worst case scenario that every elective post in this country goes into a petition. How are we prepared? How are we prepared for it? And for them to do that, they need to speak to the other arms, because, there is this perceived independence that people talk about. It is independence of function. It's not, the powers that you have. For example, when the Chief Justice sits there, there is nobody who can tell her how to rule a court matter. You are overstepping your mandate. But to support her, that when you are doing a ruling there, what do you need? You need a good presentation from the DPP. You need, the DPP needs good presentation from the police. What is wrong in these people sitting together and saying, for us to be able to deliver good judicial system and administrative justice to our citizens, let's sit and say, how do we operate? How does each one of us perform their part, so that we have a very fast determination of cases, and we have fair determination of cases that are devoid of shoddy investigation. So you must sit together and say, my expectations before you bring these things to me are the following. Then I say, before you pass it to the other person, the expectation is the following, so that you are fair to the Kenyans.
PS, I know I've said my last question before, but this is my last question.
No, I am here. Don't have any worry, even if you want us to go up to 1 a.m.
No, I know you have. Tomorrow is your day, and a busy one at that. One viewer is asking, ask PS this question. On the question of confidential accounts, how much did Interior spend in 2021-2022 financial year?
I have given you the figures.
100 million.
That is inclusive of everybody.
What was it spent on?
It will be spent on confidential matters. And that's why it's a confidential fund. I would sit here and start saying, because why they are there, not in Kenya, they are there in every country of this, but they have their own way of auditing. Now, has the Auditor General raised issues about expenditure? No, because the Auditor General comes to a room, asks for everything and is given everything for them to interrogate, because we also must safeguard. When, for example, we are doing very delicate investigations about Al-Shabaab, how do you do it? So we must allow the security sector to operate. And when we do it, we invite the Auditor General and say, this was our confidential expenditure. Do you have a problem with it? They will check. See, you have met all the requirements of the law. You have not paid personnel emolument to anybody. You have used it for items that are confidential in nature. And that is why you don't find the Auditor General with problems with it, because it's open. They come and they interrogate it across board.
PS, we're going to have to leave it there. Maybe in closing, 7 years in office, how has it been leading
it's not 7.
2015?
You are...
okay, in this current...
You are taking away my 6.
Away your 6. No, from 2015, I believe.
I became PS Interior in 2016.
2016, so 6 years or so.
Yeah, it's been a journey of a lot of learning. It's been a journey of a lot of experiences. It's been a journey where we have accumulated also a lot of knowledge on how governments work. And it's a journey of fulfillment, because we have been able to come from a situation early in this administration where we would have almost a terrorist attack every month. Today, you don't hear about them. We have come from a situation where our police, were the ratio of police to ammunition to a gun was probably a policeman. One gun would be shared by 5 policemen. That's where we came from. Today, probably one police have 5 guns to protect you. We have, because I'm just using gun as an example of the equipping that we have done.
Resources.
Because after the president took over, he realized security was our weakest. And every year, under what we call a modernization program, we have been pumping 10 billion to equip. And that's why you see the police equipment now is up to date. We have come from a situation where now at 5 a.m., you will find women walking early morning alone to their businesses without worries. That is something that we had almost thought is impossible. We have come from a situation where our involvement in ICT today, if you apply, and I challenge you, apply for a passport tomorrow, and you say you have an emergency, you'll have it tomorrow. We have come from a situation, you know, the revolutionary approach of His Excellency the President to even using IT to solve problems. Look at this country. You can now apply for your business here, seated here, and you get your company registered. You can do your search of anything from your phone today. You know, these are some of the things that have changed this country, but people don't see because they are not tall buildings. You are able today, yeah, to do transactions of up to 300,000 shillings from your phone. You can be able to pay your workers. We've created that infrastructure. And I think this journey, for those of us who have seen this transformation, we can just say God has given us an opportunity to be alive at the right time. For me, it's been all fun. The skin has thickened. You know, in the early days, I would hear Gachagua an insult, and I would not sleep because I would wonder, why does someone hate me so much? Today, I don't even think I listen to what he says, because I know it's out of malice. So the skin thickens, because what I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Are these things that are being said true? 99.99 of them are wrong, because it's perceptions being created so that people rebel against their own government.
Any regrets?
I have zero regrets. In fact, if I was taken back to 2016, I will do it again the same way.
Interior PS Karanja Kibicho, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for your time. I know tomorrow's a busy day. I don't know how many hours of sleep you will get.
I hope you will find time to come to Uhuru Gardens.
We'll be covering it, so we'll be at work very early.
No, I'm not asking about Royal Media Services. I'm asking about you.
Personally, I will also be covering.
I am inviting you to come and celebrate this. This is our 59th. And I think it's fair that we give it honor, because we must always remind ourselves where we've come from. It's a time to also talk to our young people who probably were born much later and have no relationship with the struggle for independence, to know that there are people in this country who got us where we are, who got us to enjoy the liberties we are enjoying through their blood. And this is the time we take to reflect. And I hope that tomorrow we will all reflect and after reflection, plan how we want our country to march forward, so that all these gains we have achieved after 59 years are not thrown into waste just because there's political competition.
I think that's a good parting shot, Iveni. Dr. Karanja Kibicho, thank you so much for your time and your patience this evening. We appreciate Interior and Citizen Services PS here with us live. He's got a busy day tomorrow, and yet he's taken his time to answer many of the questions that you've sent 22422 via our SMS line and using the hashtag Newsnight as well. But in the interest of time, we really do need to wrap it up here and allow you, even our viewers, to go and get some rest. So it's been Newsnight. Thank you so much for all the questions and the feedback that we've received. On behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, asante sana for tuning in. My sign language interpreter this evening has been Wilson Mushora. Remember, tomorrow we are live from Uhuru Gardens. We're actually live in our studios from about 8:30, Citizen TV, Noro, Ramogi, of course on radio and on our digital platforms. And at 10 o'clock, we'll be bringing you pictures live from Uhuru Gardens for the 59th Madaraka Day, the last